And let's begin. Tuesday, the 18th of June. It's been another cracking day at the Euros in Germany. We've got Jordan Campbell on the line very, very shortly. He's going to be telling us what Scotland must do Wednesday against Switzerland in their must-win fixture. We'll also be hearing from Tim Spears in the immediate aftermath of Poland's narrow last-minute squeaky victory over the Czech Republic while here in the studio.
Portugal's, James.
Who did I call? Poland.
Yeah.
Right. Portugal, different team, different story. We'll also be hearing from Tim Spears from Leipzig on the immediate aftermath of Poland. We'll also be hearing from Tim Spears from Leipzig on the immediate aftermath of Portugal's last-minute win against the Czech Republic drama. Here in the studio, meanwhile, Sasha Goryunov. Hello.
Hello, James.
Hello, Sasha. Sasha's come with all sorts of interesting tidbits. Mark Carey's also with us. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Jimbo.
Lovely to see you. And on the big screen from Germany, Seb Stafford Bloor.
Guten Abend, Herr Richardson.
Yeah, thank you so much. A little bit of German flavour from Seb. Mm-hmm. Seb, it's the end of the first round with today's games. How's everything going down over there?
Yeah, what a question. Let's divide it into two. Football's been great. Football's been wonderful. I'd actually say today's been the best day of football so far. Few little wrinkles, and by little wrinkles, I mean big problems with the organisation. A lot of unhappy people on trains, which I probably could have told you was going to happen, unfortunately. Quite a few issues in the organisation around the ground. Couple of problems in the fan zones. They seem to have sorted themselves out. But so, mixed bag. So hopefully the ratios will start to shift a little bit towards the football in the second round.
Yeah, hopefully so. If there's one thing we all thought would be the case, it would be the trains would be great. But apparently not. We'll maybe delve into the reasons for that and some of the other problems that supporters have been encountering in Germany. But later on, after we've talked about the action on field today, because the action today on field was spectacular, Mark.
Yeah, I don't think anyone expected Georgia and Turkey to be the not only the game of the day, but the game of the tournament so far. If anyone didn't tune into it, they absolutely should go back and watch not just the highlights, but the whole game, I think, because it was just incredible. It was two sides who were really going toe-to-toe with each other, I think. A lot of the games have been, like the tonight's game has been clearly a stronger team and a weaker team and a bit of sort of back and forth. But this one was just, two teams really just having a bit of a slugfest. I think there was 33, maybe 34 shots in the game, which was the most of any game so far in the tournament. And some incredible goals from outside the box, some volleys. I'm sure we'll unpack all of those.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 of the goals in the Turkey-Georgia game from outside the box, which has been very much the dominant theme of this opening set of matches.
I believe it's 1/3 of the goals have been scored from outside the box now.
Just before the winning goal from Portugal, it was exactly a third. It may have changed ever so slightly, but it's there or thereabouts.
Why was that from outside the area? Outside the box?
It was from inside the box, so
but
it
it was
ruined
a
the ratio.
Oh, of course it would ruin the area.
Ruin the ratio.
Of course it would.
But I think for me today, the big thing was in the Georgia-Turkey game, it's just the raw emotion. Not of just one set of fans, the entire stadium. It's like almost 70,000 people going nuts. You could see Georgians crying after the equaliser. You could see the Turkish fans and relatives of the players just in tears after their goals as well. And I just think, like, you look at that and it was just basically, this is football. And it's just great advert for the game, to be honest.
Yeah, certainly was. 3-1, Turkey beat Georgia. Although the Georgians in their first ever tournament game were in it until the last minute. And that was the early game, the evening match in Leipzig. Portugal 2-1 victors over the Czech Republic. Let's start with that. Bit of comms, Lucy. Lovely stuff. So YouTube listener, sorry, I should call you a viewer, really. YouTube viewer, we actually start with a quick chat with Tim Spears. Recorded moments ago. He talked about the fact that Roberto Martinez has no idea how to fit all his players into an 11, and that's very much the problem. And the fact that the substitutes help win this game doesn't necessarily mean that his ideas will crystallise in any way over the next few days. So it's going to be interesting. Martinez himself said that they won't peak until after the group stage is finished. But, Portugal are work in progress, and he felt that they were a bit lucky. We'll pick up on some of those comments now. as we get the views of Seb and Sasha and Mark. Right. Tim Spears there in Leipzig. All right then. Well, so much anticipation around this Portugal side. Curious to know your verdict. Tim was talking about fortune. Is it fair, though, to say that Portugal kind of earned it by dominating this game in pretty much every aspect?
Well, I think one of Mark's observations in the second half was, they've changed it up. And now Ronaldo actually has a partner with him up front. And it felt I think we felt that Jota coming on just gave Portugal that bit of extra penetration, extra threat, a foil for Ronaldo that immediately made them much more threatening.
Yeah, they felt far more balanced after the changes, because it was initially Cancelo starting at left wing back, and he was coming inside and getting involved in the build-up and generally floating quite a lot. And then the change meant that Cancelo went more to right wing back, and then Nuno Mendes went from the left centre back to a left wing back. And it was because of that change, I think, that it had a lot more balance to it. Both sort of naturally footed players on either side, and that cross led to then Nuno Mendes getting on the end of the back post to sort of cause that chaos for the own goal, which I think was genius from Roberto Martinez, you might say.
Magnificent. The Czechs certainly knew their formation, didn't they, Sasha?
Yeah, I mean, my main takeaway from the first half is that this is the first time I think I saw a 6-diamond formation. Effectively, they went to a flat back 6 with like a little diamond in front of them, which felt like ultra defensive. And I think, as Tim called it, the most defensive performance or setup probably of the tournament so far, but it worked.
Well, for all that, they actually scored the opening goal of the game.
And you could arguably say that in that particular moment, I think Portugal almost forgot how to defend, because everyone was in their own box, and Provod on the D was basically just on his own. And I thought he almost caressed the ball into the back of net. He didn't have to hit it with that much power. And this is, of course, Lukas Provod, who missed the previous Euros, I think, with a late injury. So for him, this was a very big moment, so that he made this Euros. And I think he was being touted as quite a key player in this Czech lineup.
Okay, also a key player for the Czechs in tonight's proceedings was their goalkeeper. First of all, in the own goal, in which he basically pushes the ball into one of his teammates' knees and it bounces back.
Yeah.
And then for the Portuguese winner?
The Portuguese winner, I think, was probably more of an error from the defender.
Okay.
And it was just a bit... I think everyone was quite tired by the end of it. When you have attack versus defence for that long, I know that they scored the first goal and they sucker-punched Portugal, but it felt by the end that it was just a little bit tired from both the goalkeeper and the defender. So a little bit unlucky, but Portugal had 24 open play crosses, which was more than any other nation in the first round of fixtures. So they eventually worked out that you cannot go through a back line of 6. You have to kind of go around it. So they had no other option, but it worked in the end because both goals came ultimately from crosses.
Magnificent. Francisco Conceicao, son of Sergio, of course, scoring the winner 111 seconds after coming off the bench.
From the cross of Pedro Neto, who also came on 2 minutes earlier for, I think it was Nuno Mendes. So it's like sort of like for like sub, but he found himself out wide, and that's what caused the problems. I think one thing I would say probably for the keeper, I think in that situation it was a relatively easy save he should have made in the first goal. But I think because it was pouring down, maybe he didn't have the confidence that he'll hold it. So he felt like pushing it out, except he pushed it right into the mixer. It's like, you just don't do that.
Don't do that. Seb, your thoughts?
I just remember feeling really sorry for Hanrich, the centre-back, particularly on the second goal, because I think the genesis of that move is Pedro Neto being able to force his way inside past the outside exterior centre-back. Shouldn't happen, really. It's a bit too easy. It's not like Pedro Neto is a wonderfully skillful, quick player, but he shouldn't be steamrolling or anything really like that, really. And then, I don't know, something happens to the centre-back's legs. I've seen it like 3 or 4 times now. I'm not quite sure. It looks like something that I might do, really, just trying to kind of kneel down on the ball. But horrible. But I think also Portugal deserved it. I remember thinking in the first half, I'm not sure that midfield 2, that Fernandes-Vitinha one is going to get it done, because the middle of the pitch was so congested. And it was just a little bit too much finesse. And you knew as soon as you saw the way that Thomas Souček was playing at the base of the midfield for the Czechs that you knew what the game plan was going to be, right? But I ended up, I was quite happy for Roberto Martinez, because I think we flogged him quite a little bit during his time at Belgium. The latest in a succession of coaches not to be able to get the best out of the fabled golden generation. And this was kind of this was a sort of a showcase for both, yes, the squad's versatility and depth and range, but also kind of his mind. I think he was kind of vindicated by what happened. And, sodden pitch, wet all day, horrible conditions, a lot has gone against you, but they got over the line. And that felt like a little bit of a tactical success, as kind of Mark and Sasha have spoken about.
All right, imagine how good they'll be when and if they finally click. Next up for the Portuguese, it's a game against Turkey, while the Czechs will be up against Georgia. Those games coming up on Saturday. Next up, we'll talk about Turkey-Georgia. Woo! Comms here, clearly. What do you think, the winning goal? Yeah. Well, I think it'd be nice to go through them. Maybe a bit of a... Do you have a bit of roar of the crowd from the start or something like that? Or do you? Can you, Lucy? Wow, okay. Whew! Hear that, listener? That's the most red-hot atmosphere we've had at the Euro 24 tournament so far in Dortmund, where Turkey were taking on Georgia. It was a little bit too heated, the atmosphere pre-game, of course, where things went beyond the usual food banter. One or two fists being thrown between the two sets of fans. But once the game got underway, oh my word, what a magnificent spectacle. Daniel Story, who was at the match, says, I think that might be the best football occasion I have ever attended. Duncan Alexander suggests this game is edging confidently towards having its own Wikipedia page. Wow, it was that kind of game. If you missed it, let's take everyone through what exactly happened at the Signal Iduna Park. First of all,
I think we should start with the Turkish national anthem.
Okay.
When 3/4 of the stadium are belting it out, and it's literally spine-tingling. It's quite a stirring anthem as well. And when it's 50,000 people singing along in Westfalenstadion, it's extraordinary. So I think from that moment onwards, it kind of set the scene. This is going to be special.
Right. Okay. 25 minutes in, it's Turkey who score. How about that goal from the right back, Mulder?
It was unbelievable, yeah. I've watched so many different angles, so many different replays of it, and I can only credit him. If I was being super critical, it comes off his shin ever so slightly, but it doesn't matter because it just has that bend on it. Is it revs per second, whatever it is, must have been off the scale for that one because it was just curling away from the goalkeeper. And I must say I didn't know much about Mulder, but to have a right back score a goal like that, you think it's a striker's sort of finish, and it was a fantastic goal and just completely set the tone for the rest of the game.
Seb.
Yeah, did it remind you of that two-guy goal against Tottenham all those years ago? One of those kind of volleys, loose ball floating the edge of the box, and just, I can't believe, Mark Carey, I cannot believe you shinning it like that. You're such a killjoy. You're such a killjoy.
I caveated it after. It was because in the office we were all trying to work out, was it just a little bit of a...
I know you as a very, very nice person, but something's happened to you since the last time I saw you. That is just a wonderful hit. And the Germans have an expression, Traumtor, which means literally dream goal, but actually kind of means once in a lifetime goal, once of a kind, proper Traumtor. Also, I was my in-laws are Turkish Cypriots, and Traumtor got used quite a lot during this game on the old WhatsApp.
Imagine.
Yeah,
I can imagine. The next goal,
happy.
the next goal we thought was only about a minute later when Turkey thought they'd gone 2-0 up. Yildiz this time putting the ball in the net, only to see it disallowed, and instead, mere moments later, my word, it's the Georgians up the other end, scoring their first ever goal in a major tournament through Mikatadze. Sasha.
Yeah, I thought Georgians were lucky with this allowed goal because that was a
moment.
moment.
You know what? Actually, just through Mikatadze, and we'll have the comms. Mm-hmm. Can you squeeze the comms in on the first one, Lucy? Cool. Okay. Because
I thought
they enjoyed that. Sasha.
I think the disallowed goal just gave them a little bit of a push because at the moment of conceding the goal, they clearly wobbled and then they got themselves together. And I thought, yeah, the Turkish defending wasn't great, but I thought we saw it in that moment. What the Georgians were famous for, great skill, because Kocherashvili does, puts a bit of skill on to actually find Mikhautadze. And Mikhautadze, is on his own for quite a while. It's as though the whole Turkish defense just froze. Maybe it's you pick him up, you pick him up, you pick him up. Turkish captain is right next to him, not picking him up.
Yeah, Hakan Çalhanoğlu was, I don't know what he was marking, but he was marking space. And as they always say, space doesn't score goals.
Right.
Zonal. Maybe he went zonal.
It was going zonal, and there was far more Turkish players in the box than Georgian players.
He
and
takes it
somehow
so
had
quickly,
space.
though, Mikhatis. Is that the key?
I think the keeper is on the post, obviously, and he has to move the other way. So when it's basically against his movement, he cannot get his foot out. So the only thing he can do is flop down on it, and I think it just travels too fast. I think it looks bad on the keeper, but I think there's only so much you can do. But the scenes after that as well, oh my God, again, the Georgian fans going wild. There's a video of a journalist just breaking down in tears, and I'm like, I relate to that. I mean, it's wonderful.
Well, minutes before, they had looked like they were 2-0 down, and all of a sudden...
It's all turned.
Yeah.
And I think you can see that until the end of the first half. That wave kind of carries them. And I think this is something that Nika mentioned on his preview on last night's pod. It's like the sense of purpose. That is a system, and then the whole team is like they mentally seem to be very, very strong. And once they get a bit of wind up with them, this is really, we saw Georgia kind of flourish on this occasion.
They don't do things willy-nilly.
Yeah.
He's probably one of their players, of course. But how about in the second half? Then they have a couple of chances to take the lead themselves before the first half comes to an end. Çalhanoğlu with that incredible free kick, which the keeper, I'm not sure what you think of his performance, but this shot I think was... timed at 126 kilometers per hour. He gets a single hand to it.
How could you even see it? I don't think it's...
Amazing.
How do you even see that? And it bent as well. So because you could see him move slightly, but the hand is up. And, I mean, he is a 2-meter goalkeeper. So, I mean, he should have strong hands. He should be a big, strong unit. But still, I think that was an underrated save. He's done incredibly well there.
Seb, this is for you.
No, I was just gonna give some praise to Hakan Çalhanoğlu just because I think when I heard about his transition from being, the kind of the decadent fun number 10 that we know, to more of a kind of a holding six orchestrating type, there's a little bit of a red flag because you wonder whether a player is going to have the discipline to play that role after an entire career spent further forward. I thought he was excellent. I thought he was really, really good, really mature with the ball. And I was reading some quotes after the game. I read up on some of the things he said before the tournament. He was talking about how with every game he plays in the role, he develops a little bit more defensive feel. This game probably not the showcase for that because I felt like no one did a lot of defending. It was a very transitional sort of football, which was wonderful. But I thought his passing from deep was very good. I thought he was the way he kind of equipped those wide inside forwards was really impressive because I guess the key is getting Yildiz and Güler into kind of space or one-on-one situations and Çalhanoğlu is such a big part of that. I was really impressed, really enjoyed it. He's someone that I enjoy watching, so it's kind of nice given all the things that have happened to quote unquote dark horse Turkey in the past. It was kind of nice to see them deliver and play with such style.
Excellent. Well, let's talk tram tours then, Seb, because stepping up to then win the match with time winding down and the scoreline still at 1-1 is Arda Güler.
Oh, goodness me. Hey, this is one of those moments where like you just praise the TV angle, right? Because you had the perfect perspective on that ball as it curved. And it was a classic sort of, that's it. As soon as you see it start to bend, you know exactly where it's going. And I don't know, like you talked about sort of Dan Story's thinking it's one of the best football atmospheres he's experienced. It's kind of fitting that it should occur in Dortmund where wild stuff happens. Everything's kind of that crowd is so uninhibited as well. And it's so loud. Also, the stadium roof is clipped and angled downwards to keep all the noise in. So I can fully believe that it was just a magical occasion. And if you add that goal into it, it's just it's one of those things where like, you probably remember being in a stadium for something like that forever, I think, if you were lucky enough to be there. And wonderful goal. Just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful goal. Amazing hit.
Here it is in Turkish. All right. 19 years old. So he is now the youngest ever debut scorer in a European Championship finals, breaking the record which was previously held by Cristiano Ronaldo. Of course. What a goal and what a moment to score it.
He also had quite a bit of time to pick his spot because I think Georgia the fullback, Tsetaishvili, just lost the ball in an unfortunate moment, so Georgia didn't have time to reset.
Were you looking at that thinking, is there anything
No,
on?
I was looking at thinking, that's a lot of space.
Yeah.
And then he hit it. And, I mean, again, two 19-year-olds playing for Turkey, huge expectations. How will they perform on this? But I think he looked lively throughout. But again, for him to get those couple of seconds to be able to line this up, I think he must have gone.
And it's not the first time he's done it. If you look back, he scored a very similar goal against Wales, I think, about a year ago. So
That's his debut goal, was it?
It may well
might
have been,
his debut game, as well.
And he's obviously very young, but he's getting a bit of a highlights reel for that sort of goal. But I think he's just so good on the ball. I know that he started off kind of wide right, but he's a ball to feet sort of player who likes to drift inside. He comes into central positions. He was even drifting over to the left at times. And you just wonder how his career is going to go maybe at Real Madrid in terms of, is he going to be more drafted in as a wide right winger, or is he going to maybe be more of a number 8, more of an inside forward? Because I looked at something, we were talking about it in the office actually, about an interview that he did fairly recently where Real Madrid essentially sold it to him that the reason he should come to them was because he'll be the successor or the heir to Luka Modric, which I thought was really interesting, and who famously started as a wide player himself. So maybe in the coming years he'll be that sort of maybe free 8 to be able to actually go and influence games from more of a central position. But of course he started in a wide position. The fact that he can do both at 19 years old is already shows just how strong that is.
I think also very good for him that he's out of Turkish football. Because imagine if he was a Galatasaray or Fenerbahce, it'd be absolutely insane. I think the fact that he's gone to Real, he could just concentrate on his football.
Yeah.
Talking about goals from outside the box being a theme of the opening round, and goals from 19, 20-year-olds, but essentially players not old enough to drink in the United States, very much one of the recurring storylines at Euro 2024. So there you go. That was the winning goal as it turned out, but watching the game, it didn't feel like that was necessarily the case. Georgia had at least 3 big opportunities to get an equaliser after 90 minutes had passed.
Yeah, there was the free kick that ended up hitting the post. Then it was cleared off the line. There was another one after that. Anytime you see a goalkeeper go up for a set piece, you think
he was actually a nuisance.
He was a nuisance. We were saying that it's a game that had absolutely everything, and then of course, then you go and get the goal where they go and run away with it on the counter attack. Just when you thought it did have everything, it had more.
Right, 97th minute, keeper has gone up. Somebody loses out on a 50-50, and Aktakoglu brings the ball away and goes about 70 yards down the field before himself scoring from outside the box.
Exactly. And I think, it was very ice hockey goal, wasn't it?
It was an ice hockey goal, absolutely.
Very much. It felt like it. And I think, again, Turkey today scored at just great moments, because I think the Arda Güler goal came just at the crescendo of pressure. You were thinking, does it break or does it not? And, runaway goal to clinch the win in the 97th minute. It's the best feeling. It's often the second goal that kind of, the goal gives you the 2-goal advantage, but also coming as late as it was. Now you've won, and everyone can just go wild.
Okay. How do you pronounce his name, Sasha?
Which one are we talking about here?
Oh, what did you just say? I thought you said, because I called him Aktakoglu.
Yeah.
Is that not how you pronounce that?
Aktakoglu, yeah.
Oh,
no, did I? No, I think I mentioned the Arda Güler goal before this.
Sorry, about Arda Güler. Right, okay, cool. That makes sense.
I appreciate it's probably just lots of noise.
Excellent, right. No, you're good. Wow, okay, so Turkey, you know what? I think I'm going to make them my dark horse for this Euro tournament. What do you think, Seb?
Yeah, that way. No one's ever had their fingers burnt by doing that before.
All right, well, they will be taking on Portugal on Saturday. That's going to be quite an affair, as will Georgia's attempts to pick themselves up after getting nothing from what was a magnificent debut performance on this kind of stage.
I think they can take a lot of heart for this, because, nominally they were quite defensively set up. And, if that's defensive Georgia, just wait to see what happens when they actually attack. So I think, the tweak to put Kvaratskhelia slightly deep into 5-4-1, I think made sense. Cannot believe how much stick they gave him on BBC for not marking Muldur when he scored a worldie. You wouldn't really expect that to happen anyway. I thought Kvicha today, I think Turks in general did a pretty good job on him. There was quite a lot of kicking of him as well. But I think, there was a few one-on-ones he couldn't get past the defenders. So I think today was a very, very difficult game for him. I think also emotionally and physically very exhausting for the Georgians. So how will they pick themselves up? However, I think coming off the pitch, I haven't read the reaction in Georgia yet, but I think they should take a lot of heart from this, because they did go toe-to-toe. They're also overall a relatively young team. So I think they should be able to recover. So I think 7 players are 23 and 24. Again, for the future and for them to basically, to blood themselves on such an occasion, given that there's another 2 or 3 tournaments ahead of them, I think is great. And these guys actually grew up also playing together. So as a unit, as a system, as a group of players, I think they're actually in a very good place. And I think after that game, Yes, they lost it. Yes, they had also the chance where, Mikautadze and Kochorashvili got in each other's way, and they might think, oh, what if? But it's a great what if to be in. They're a great position to be in for them.
Okay. Czech Republic for them on Saturday. Next up on today's show, we're going to have a look at what awaits on Wednesday.
Could I just add? I think they might have a change against Czech Republic. Budu Zivzivadze being more physical, and given how deep Czech Republic generally play, I think he'll probably be playing instead of Mikautadze.
All right. We'll save that for Friday's show, but thanks, Sash. Listener, allow me to mention briefly that the Daily Football Briefing is with you every day during the summer. All the football news that you need to know in less than 10 minutes, hosted by the extremely capable Ian McIntosh. If you fancy a deeper dive, meanwhile, into the big Euro issues, transfer stories, all that kind of thing, what managers are up to, then listen to the Athletic FC podcast. That's with Ayo Akinwolere. That's with you every weekday afternoon. Seb Stafford Bloor in a very humid hotel room in Munich. He switched the air conditioning off because it's simply too noisy. Not the only thing that's not been working exactly the way that people would like it there in these early days of the Euros. The transport issues have been keenly felt by so many sets of fans, not least the England supporters in and around Gelsenkirchen. But even just getting into games has proved a real issue. What's behind all these, for many of us, unexpected problems?
The stadium one is a bit of a mystery, Jimbo, because I've never experienced anything like it for Bundesliga games or Champions League games held in Germany. In fact, one of the things I most enjoy about covering football out here is that it's really easy. Like your transport links from the center of town, like your local trains, your U-Bahn, S-Bahn, trams often work very well. Once you get to stadiums, it's really easy to get in. You know where you're going. When I got to the Allianz Arena, or Football Stadium Munich, as we're obliged to call it, on Friday night, the zoning had kind of failed and there were people trying to bust across different lines. It was really chaotic. It's very, very difficult to understand because it wasn't as if there was an increase in capacity by Munich. Sorry, Jim.
No. Is it because these games are not organised by the Bundesliga sides, but it's UEFA coming in and changing the way things happen?
Well, it would seem to be a difference. I mean, we haven't really heard anything. I mean, it's a strange thing to change a system which appears to work. Obviously, Bayern Munich are a very big team. They sell out their stadium all the time. A lot of people going to their games, a lot of crowds, a lot of congestion. So not clear really why they would alter a system. I'm hearing reports of similar situations around the country. Obviously, experience another ground tomorrow, going to Stuttgart for Germany against Hungary, see what the situation's like there. The trains, the intercity trains is a different situation. Obviously, I think it's easy to misinterpret it as something that is, is the infrastructure buckling under the weight of the extra demand and the amount of people coming to the country. Not really true. The Deutsche Bahn has been an issue in Germany for a long time. Probably, it's suffered from underinvestment probably for 20, 30 years. And in Germany, if you've spent any time on Deutsche Bahn, this is what you expect. When you get on a train, you plan for the fact that something's going to go wrong. You don't book trains with connections with less than half an hour between them because something's going to happen. And I did a piece this morning on The Athletic where we talked to a few people involved in some sort of some focus groups and some charities that kind of look after the rights of commuters and kind of hold Deutsche Bahn to account. And there are all sorts of problems. I mean, a lot of the infrastructure is old, it's decaying, even by Deutsche Bahn's own recognition, by their own admittance that it's not quite fit for purpose. Some of the signals are, in bad condition. And what the end result is that what you have is a very busy network, which is very old, which is needed of an upgrade, which because of the amount of congestion on it has very little margin for error. So if one train misses its kind of junction by 10 minutes, the knock-on effect and the butterfly, what we'll call, I don't know, kind of a vertex of doom, I guess, is pretty substantial. And the ripples...
Point taken, Seb, but how does that explain, for example, the issues with the trams around Gelsenkirchen?
To my mind, and this is theory, I think Gelsenkirchen was a really poor venue for that game because Gelsenkirchen as a town, it's not that big. There's not a lot of things to do there. And so as a result, a lot of fans who go there or who are attending games there are not staying in the city itself. So as a result, when a game finishes or when a game begins, you get a lot of flow of people into the city in a very short space of time, which means that all the stress falls on networks which, because Schalke have had a little bit of a downturn over the last few years, they don't have a lot of experience there of hosting big events, really, not in football at least. They do hold some concerts, but it's not quite the same thing. And also it happened on a Sunday when the crowds are being catered to by the Sunday timetable, which is not as well populated as it would be on a Monday night, for instance, or what it would be like on a Tuesday afternoon. So the planning is a little bit strange. I haven't heard a justification for it yet, but I spoke to a couple of people who live nearby. One person who lives in Wuppertal, which is just about 20 minutes away from Düsseldorf, and he found it very odd that it was there. You could see the problems coming a mile away. So whether they put the game there because of its status, because it was Serbia in England, and because people expected trouble and issues, I don't know. But it wasn't a particularly good decision. And also, big fan bases. You want to put big fan bases in places where, for instance, if all else fails, you can walk back to the city centre, right? Like you don't have to depend on a train system. You can just say, right, well, let's take it easy, especially if you've got kids or you're with elderly relatives or people that kind of struggle to get about. You want that option just to kind of meander back into town at your own pace, no hassle, no aggro, and no ramming yourself onto a very, very busy train. So it does seem as if a few mistakes were made there in the planning.
All right, well, let's hope that things improve a little bit as we head into the second match day, which begins on Wednesday. Oh, Seb.
Yeah, Jimbo, I just wanted to say, because I think it's worth bringing this up, that yes, we've made some criticisms of the tournament. What I found conversely is that with a lot of the volunteers who are working in the tournament who are not being paid by UEFA, a lot of those people are working super, super hard and under pretty difficult circumstances as well, because they're not necessarily equipped with the information or the tools to solve problems, but they're making themselves available where they can to help a lot of people that are kind of struggling. So worth highlighting that, I think.
Nicely done, Seb. Excellent. Wednesday then, it's the start of matchday 2, and Group A is back. Group A, of course, is the one where Scotland got pumped 5-1 on opening night by Germany in the heaviest ever opening defeat at the Men's European Championships. The next day, Switzerland beating Hungary 3-1. Well, it's the Swiss who the Scots will be facing next in Cologne in what is a must-not-lose fixture for Steve Clarke's side. What are the chances for the brave Scots? Jordan Campbell joins us now. Jordan was at the game and then has gone home, and he says the mood was not good, but things are improving. And he kind of talks himself into, I think, half believing they're going to do it. Key to the changes is Billy Gilmore, so that they can start to ease a bit of the pressure, and all sorts of other things, which we recorded this some time ago. And I think it's something to do with having an outlet ball. Have a listen to the podcast, because you can hear Jordan explain it, which he'll do a heck of a lot better than I failed to there. There you go.
But in the first game, I think Switzerland came across as immensely competent.
Well, we're going to come on to them, Sash. We're not. This. We've come out. We're outside of the podcast bubble right now. Jordan Campbell. Steve Clarke's side have had just one win in their last 10 matches in all tournaments. Ooh. Also, Switzerland looked pretty fine against Hungary last Saturday.
And I think people were quite bearish, I think, on Switzerland going into the tournament. But I was looking at the lineup facing Hungary, particularly what they were up against. And you look at that midfield of, Bologna, Bayern, Bologna, Mainz. And you look what's behind them. Manchester City, Torino, Newcastle. You look what's in goal. Inter. It's a hell of a spine. It's a hell of a sort of back 8, if you like. And, bit of a throw of, bit of a random player thrown in. What's his name? Dua, yeah. Dua, whom we really haven't heard of before, unless you were watching Europa League and Ludogorets. But the base that's given to that team is incredible. So I'd love to see how Scotland are going to try to break through that.
Well, indeed. The Swiss will be looking to wrap things up with a second straight win before taking on the Germans in their final group game. They have never, though, the Swiss, won their opening 2 matches at a major tournament. Did you know that? How about that for a stat?
Yeah, they're always in the second round.
Right. Yeah, indeed they are. Indeed they are. I think only France have a better record at qualifying out of groups than the Swiss, remarkably. As for the Germans, post that 5-1 victory over Scotland. They are taking on Hungary. Seb, Germany breaking records last Friday and a fan's hand.
Yeah, poor fan, right? It was a kind of, he felt the full force for Nicky Fulkrug shot, and there was a big picture of him in Build this morning with his, you know that photo that people do when something bad has happened to them and they hold up their broken hand and they kind of look all sad about it. But on the plus side, he's going to recover to be in Stuttgart tomorrow. That's good. And I think I spoke to DFB today, and they're gonna send him a Nicholas Fulkrug shirt. So that should make up for it. A nice kind of not nice thing to remember, not a nice memento having the broken bone, but you get the shirt out of it. So
how did he actually break it?
Not quite sure. I think he was standing close during a shooting practice when Fulkrug unleashed. I think it was before the game. I could be wrong about that, because the only shots that I remember Fulkrug taking during the game went in. So I don't.
No, I think it was definitely pre-game. But
yeah,
it's quite a thought, isn't it? And again, I go back to Mamardashvili and
what a hero
hand he put up against the Çalhanoğlu striker.
And also just to say, judging by the evidence of Fulkrug's goal against Scotland, he hits the ball quite hard.
He sure does. He sure does. Yeah.
So
he's a nice story, Fulkrug. Like it's worth remembering. Also, this is someone that's come from really, there's Zweite Bundesliga and that season at Werder Bremen, and all the way to the national team, and a little bit of an unfashionable, outdated player, a little bit of a kind of forward out of time. Is very much a kind of traditional number 9, and it's such fun to see him score those kind of goals at this level at a home tournament too. I think it's a lovely moment for him. Although breaking hands not so lovely. But
go to a football match.
Sometimes, yeah, exactly.
Deal with the consequences. They're going to be taking on the Hungarians, and you might think, well, fair enough, because Hungary didn't look all that in their game against Switzerland. However, Seb, would I be right in saying that the Magyars are actually Germany's bête noire of late? They took 4 points off them, 4 of 6 in the Nations League, and they also had a 2-2 draw in the Euro 2020 group stage with Germany.
They sure did. The last time they played in Germany, they beat Germany in Leipzig, and actually Hungary went all the way through 2023 without losing a competitive game. And I think they did themselves a little bit of a disservice in that first game. I'm with the guys. I thought Switzerland were really good. But there are a few individual errors, a few moments that the Hungarians would want to take back. Probably Willi Orban, that last goal wasn't reflective of who he is as a defender. He's a terrific player. But I actually spoke to Orban before the tournament, and he talked about a couple of things. He spoke about how gradually, like, the sign of the progress is they've got more players in bigger leagues. They've got quite a few players in the Bundesliga, himself included, obviously. But also that his line was, team spirit is our hero. Not kind of, although they have a few stars, they have Szoboszlai, who's obviously a fantastic player, Galaxy in goal, who is Orban's RB Leipzig teammate. But they are a very compact team. They're very difficult to beat, and they can punish you if you don't play well against them, as they showed against Germany, who were kind of going through there's not a German word to describe that particular period of decline yet. Maybe that's in the works. At some point we can have a long German compound word that will describe it.
Not couldn't that work for that?
It probably could. But it's the point being, right, is if you don't turn up against Hungary, they can beat you. They're not just a team that's going to roll over and beat themselves. So I don't think they should be entirely dismissed. They've come a long way in a short space of time, and they are pretty resolute when they need to be.
Okay, if you're hungry for a little bit of information on the background of Hungary's potential front line on Saturday, Sasha is your man. Sasha.
Well, I think it's curious. I think if you take the Hungary team, as Seb said, they're a dangerous side. But I think the problem is, unfortunately, up top. Because they
said on Wednesday. Sorry, Saturday. It's Wednesday. Can I do that again? Beg your pardon, everyone. If you're curious, meanwhile, Sasha, why don't you tell us something else exciting about the Hungary team that will be facing Germany on Wednesday?
So I think, while Seb described, a very competent team generally, unfortunately, up top, while they have two great characters, I think, as we saw in the first game, they are that level below. It's a bit of perhaps a Fulkrug story, because they're latecomers. I mean, Barnabas Varga, who started against Switzerland, didn't play top flight footy in Hungary until age of 26. And then he basically blossomed playing for a team from a town which is based around the nuclear power station, maybe whatever they gave him there. He spent 2 seasons at Pax. And Pax, I think, probably the team with the lowest budget in the Hungarian top flight, which is a very low budget. And he scored one of the seasons, I think he scored like 29 goals, now he's up front for Ferencváros, where he scored a similar number of goals, and now he's won the league this year. But the guy who he replaced, Martin Adam, didn't play top flight football until he was about 24. Big unit, big guy. And, there was this interview with him, I think yesterday, where he basically said, when he came on, everyone went, cult hero, whatever, and no one remembered his 2 assists against England. But he said, 1 or 2 posts have reached me, and usually I laugh them off. I was born like this. This is my this is my body shape. Of course, I wasn't born this big, but I can't change it. It's my genetics, and also I have to say about it. And he looked so sad. I think Jenny, he looked so sad because he is a professional footballer, and everyone looks and goes, rugby player, or this big guy, what a throwback. But, he did score at one point 31 goals in 32 games for Pax. He might not be
He's
even
another
full
Pax player.
He's another Pax player. So
a Pax man.
Definitely a Pax man. Before he went to... now he plays in South Korea, where he won 2 South Korean titles. Also, a bit of a cult hero as well because of how he is. But I think he took it a bit personally.
Yeah.
The way that the general reaction was to him against Switzerland, because he came on to win the game. He's a nuisance, and perhaps maybe if they'd gone more direct, he could have made a difference. Not because the way he's shaped. He's actually a good player, but perhaps maybe not that level of a striker that Hungary really need to make a huge difference.
We'll see when they take on Germany on Wednesday. There's another game on Wednesday before those 2 Group A matches. You got Croatia and Albania from Group B, where Spain and Italy are leading the way. Spain beat Croatia. Italy defeated Albania. This early match on Wednesday. Mark, do you know much about it? Am I throwing you a little bit of a...
No, I mean, I just think with Croatia, it's the age-old issue that... age-old being... accidentally being the main thing I want to speak about, that we know how strong their midfield is, but if ever they go behind, then, it's a big ask to try and get anything at the sharp end of the field, because they're just not really clinical at the top end of the field. So they're comfortable sort of suffering in games. They've got such experience in midfield, but they build out really nicely and neatly, but they just lack that real threat. And I think has been the theme of many of their tournaments, and they do just grind it out. They're not high scoring. So you wonder whether this will be an all-time classic with them. We thought that maybe about earlier. So who knows? But I don't think we'll see too many goals from Croatia in this tournament.
Okay. But one thing I think it has to be sort of taken into account, Spain performance in the first half against Croatia was extraordinary. Like, again, you look at the Spain lineup and think, how these could play and how they played, how they pressed them. I was looking at Spain were pressing them in like 43rd minute of the first half, and eventually that leads to a goal. But again, to sort of Croatia's mental fortitude, they didn't fold. Other teams could have folded after the first. They actually made some changes, and they go back into the game, maybe not to win it, but, to keep it respectable. So I think to come up against Spain and get battered, it happens.
It can happen.
It can happen. Whereas against Albania, they're now, I think we should probably see them through quite safely.
Okay, it is the group of death with Italy and Spain looking good from their opening matches. Another mistake here by Croatia could see them continue their rotten record at Euro tournaments.
Oh yeah, they're World Cup team, aren't they?
Yeah, World
rather
Cup
than
team.
Euros.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see what happens in that. Mark?
Sorry, one other thing just to add on in Croatia was that one thing I think you can get through sort of past them is the first goal that Spain scored was that the midfielders like to drop in. They more or less take it in turns, but it's either Kovacic or Brozovic. They like to come between the centre-backs, and the centre-backs go really wide to then start their build-up. And then the midfielder starts to advance. But then if the centre-backs don't tuck in time, there's a massive gap, which is where Alvaro
So literally they were missing midfielder there.
So there seems to be quite a gap. If you can expose it quickly and then transition quickly, if you win it back from them when they're sort of in that phase of play, that could be a way to get through Croatia.
Okay. That's what Albania may be trying early on Wednesday. Very good. Wednesday night, late, we'll be here with JJ Bull and Tom Williams in the studio, and a variety, no doubt, of friends joining us via modern means of communication. Tonight, many thanks to Tim Spears and Jordan Campbell for doing same. Seb Stafford Bloor, time to get that aircon back on, Seb. And to Sasha and Mark here in the studio. And guest producer Lucy in the booth. That wraps it up for today's show. Everyone, let's go home. See you in 24 hours, listener and viewer on our YouTube channel. For now, from all of us here, it's goodbye. Hurrah.
Hooray.
Great. Thanks so much, Seb. Thanks,
Thanks,
you, Mark, so
guys.
much
Thanks
for
for having
coming in
me.
tonight. Sasha,
Enjoy
that was
your
magnificent.
evenings.